Amajana Timanandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chakshusan Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manabhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakaramayam Tadati Swapatantikam Mukam Karodi Bakshalam Pangam Langa Tegidim Yat Kripitamaham Bande Shri Gurundinatarinam Paramanandamaravam Radhasamukha Samsaktim Saki Sangi Nivasanim Tramaham Satadam Bande Malavaraswari Vigraham Hey Guru Gyanadina Namanda Shananda Data Karanaika Sindhu Vindavana Siddhanta Prasada Pasida Radha Pranaya Pishado Amso Bhagavatosmyaham Sadada Sosmi Savata Tatkripa Peksaka Nityam Tat Presa Satgurami Swam Namo Mahavadannaya Krishna Parapadayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Guru Say Namaha Nityananda Maham Naomi Savananda Kadampadam Harinama Padam Deva Mavaduta Suramanim Bande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahorito Gurudaya Pushpavantak Chitra Sandatu Monado Jayatang Sudato Pango Mamamanda Matigati Matsavashvapadam Boja Radhamadana Mohano Anandalila Mavigrahara Hemavadivyakshchavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahapremarasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chidara Tam Nijigupta Vitam Swaprema Namamitam Chidara Apamaram Yo Vidata Gora Krishna Kinabhyastamaham Pavadye Panchadatvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Surupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Bande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prema Meritarupriyan Sakarupan Bhaktikanan Krishna Prema Pradan Vanchikavatrivischa Kripasanduvi Avachapati Nambhavenabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Vadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Simate Gogavinda Swami Niti Namine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Dandavat everyone Vaishkapti Vishakapti Vishakapti O Vaishnav Love Guru Dev Shiva Gogavinda Swami Maharaj Namo Vismanaya Krishna Sneh Buddha Desimati Gogavinda Swami Niti Namine. So we're in Moolamba, the modem's broken, there's lockdowns, hardly anyone can come, we can't live stream, so we're doing our best here. So today is a very auspicious day. Today is Guru-Purnima, the appearance of Srila Vyasa. It also the disappearance of Srila Sanatana Goswami, and also the day we can glorify Sri Guru. So it's a very auspicious day. Very auspicious day we can glorify sadhus. Real sadhus, real Vaishnavas, real Mahajans, and glorify all acharyas. Past, present, future. So, as I said, it's the appearance of Srila Vyasa, disappearance of Srila Sanatana Goswami, and of course, the glorification of Sri Guru. So I'd first like to read something from my Gurudev, His Divine Grace, Srila Gogavinda Swami. This is from a book we're about to publish. It's called Sri Guru. It's part 3. It's from the introduction. The lecture's titled, Our Desert-like Hearts Need to be Moistened by the Torrential Rains of Mercy. So the Gurudev starts, there are 2 types of education, Jada Vidya and Pada Vidya, material education and spiritual education. We are after spiritual education, the ultimate goal of which is bhakti. In order to get that bhakti, we have approached the lotus feet of the previous acharyas, headed by Vyasa, to offer worship to them. This is Vyasa Puja. My heart is like a desert. It is as hard as a block of stone. So I pray to these merciful previous acharyas that they may shower their mercy like incessant rain, kripa bhari, on this desert-like heart. Without such mercy, how can we get bhakti? Our desert-like heart requires rain. It needs to be moistened by the torrential rains of mercy from the previous acharyas headed by Vyasadeva. So Srila Vyasadeva, he features throughout the Bhagavatam, the Puranas, the Mahabharata, all throughout the Shastra. So in the Puranas there's one story. There was one very evil king. He killed pregnant women, he killed cows, killed Brahmins. Horrid fellow. So this king, he had one relative who also wanted to be the king. So one day while this king was out hunting, the relative attacked him, killed him, and then took over the throne. Of course, this king, very sinful fellow, killing pregnant women, killing cows, killing Brahmins. So he went to hell. He went to the abode of Yamaraj. And Yamaraj, when the living entity goes to the abode of Yamaraj, Yamaraj speaks to the living entity and says, "What have you done? What have you done?" And the living entity just speaks every sinful activity he or she has done. There's no control. It just all comes out. Perfect lie detector. So then Yamaraj says, by virtue of your own admission, I deem you guilty and you must suffer. So for this king, he put him in a pot of boiling oil, 8,400 yojanas in one direction, 8,400 yojanas in another direction. And they threw him in. So you have to understand that in the hellish region you get a body, you suffer that much, you cannot understand what is bhakti, what is the process of bhakti, Krishna bhakti. And in the heavenly region you get a body, Jai Maturanath. In the heavenly planets you get a body so heavenly, to enjoy so much you still can't think of Krishna. So heavenly body you can't think of Krishna, hellish body you can't think of Krishna, earthly body you can think of Krishna according to the path of bhakti, if you follow it. So this king, they threw him in this pot of boiling oil and he just started swimming around and having a very wonderful time. And Yamaraj's chief scribe is Chitragupta. And Chitragupta has a book and he writes everything in. So Chitragupta is looking at Yamaraj, Yamaraj is looking at Chitragupta, and they're wondering, they're perplexed. What's going on here? What is going on? This fellow should be suffering. So they became very, very disturbed. So immediately Vyasa appeared there and he said to Yamaraj and Chitragupta, "Do not be disturbed. This king is a very sinful fellow. However, when he was killed by his family member and he fell off his horse and his head hit the ground, it just so happened that someone had spilt some tilak there and his head hit that tilak. That's why he's come to hell, but he's not suffering." So there's immediately, so Vyas goes to the lower regions to explain to Yamaraj and Chitragupta what's happening. So Yamaraj features all over, Vyasadeva features all over the Shastra, everywhere. Vyasa arranged the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra. When Kunti had her first child, Gandhari wanted a child. So she became pregnant. And Vyas gave her the benediction, "You will have 100 sons." But after 2 years, she gave birth to a lump, just a ball, lump of flesh. She was very upset. But Vyas appeared there and he said, "Do not be upset. You will have your 100 sons. Bring 100 pots, fill them with ghee." So Vyas cut that, they had that ball of flesh cut into 100 pieces, put into those pots of ghee and left. And after a period of time, 100 sons appeared. The first son to appear was Duryodhana, and he brayed like an ass. And Vyasa appeared there and said to Dhritarashtra, "This son, get rid of him immediately. He will destroy your whole dynasty. but Dhritarashtra was too attached and couldn't do it. So another story of Vyasa arranged for the Pandavas to go to the Swayamvara of Draupadi. And they won, and Arjuna won the hand of Draupadi. So then the day of the wedding came. Draupadi was going to be married to the 5 Pandavas. Right. And Maharaj Drupad, he was beside himself. He was very worried because he was thinking, my daughter is going to marry 5 men. How can this be possible? It's not possible. Right? How can one female marry 5 men? He was very worried. Again, Vyasa appears there and speaks to him. And he says, well, in previous days, there was one Brahmin girl named Jatila. She was the daughter of a rishi. And she married 7 rishis. She was the common wife of 7 rishis. And then he says, we have the story of the 10 Prachetas. They took one common wife. So it's not unusual. But then he said, anyway, Draupadi, in a previous life, was the daughter of a rishi. And she had prayed to the deity of Lord Shiva 5 times for a good husband. And the deity spoke to her and said, in your next life, you will have 5 great husbands. And Vyasa said, there they are. There's the 5 husbands. And then Vyasa took him aside and said, anyway, Draupadi is born out of the fire yajna. She's an expansion of Lakshmi. Her whole existence, she's only appeared to become the wife of the Pandavas. And the 5 Pandavas, in their previous lives, they have all been Indra. And then he said, then he gave Drupad transcendental vision and said, and showed him the 5 Pandavas in golden armour, as Indra sitting on the throne. He saw the 5 previous lives of the Pandavas as when they were Indra. So then Drupad became very pleased, very happy. He was no longer beside himself. And the wedding took place. So as I said, Vyasa appears everywhere. So Vyasa's disciple is Sanjaya. Right? And Sanjaya is the secretary of Dhritarashtra. And Sanjaya, he speaks about Vyasa in the Gita, doesn't he? He speaks about Vyasadeva. And I'll quote those verses because at the beginning of the Gita, Dhritarashtra speaks. So in the Gita, there is 574 verses by Krishna, 84 spoken by Arjuna, 41 by Sanjaya, and 1 by Dhritarashtra. But that one verse by Dhritarashtra is Dhritarashtra Vaksha Dhamma Accepta Kuru Accepta Sama Veda Vyasadeva Mamaka Pandavas Kaiva Kimakuvata Sanjaya. And he says, what are my sons and the sons of Pandu doing at that holy place, Kurukshetra, desiring to fight? What are they doing? And Sanjaya, he has transcendental vision and he can see, and he's telling the king. So that is the one verse that Dhritarashtra spoke. And if you look at that verse, because they're all cousins, and the fathers are all brothers, but he immediately separated them, my sons and the sons of Pandu. Right? They're all cousins and brothers, etc. But he separated my sons, son of Pandu. My group, their group. In the words of our beloved Guru Srila Govinda Swami, when you do that, my group, your group, then the problems begin. So, Sanjaya Vaksha iti aham vadas Vasudevasya Padasya cha Mahatmana Sambadami Mamasrasam Adbhutam Ramahashanam. Sanjaya said, thus I have heard the conversation of 2 great souls, Krishna and Arjuna. And so wonderful is that message that my hair is standing on end. Right, these are the last 5 verses of the Gita. Vyasa prasadak chatravan etad guyam ahamparam yogam yogeshvarat krishnat saksat katayata swayam. By the mercy of Vyasa, I've heard these most confidential talks directly from the master of all mysticism, Krishna, who was speaking personally to Arjuna. Rajan samsritya samvadami mamadbhutam kesava junayo punyam vishami chamoho moho. O King, as I repeatedly recall the wondrous and holy dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, I take pleasure, being thrilled at every moment. The audience is increasing. Tajcha samsritya samsritra rupam ati adbhutam hare vishamayo me mahan rajan rishami chapuna puna. O King, as I remember the wonderful form of Lord Krishna, I am struck with wonder more and more, and I rejoice again and again. And Sanjay says, my hairs, right, standing on end. Ramahashanam, my hairs are standing on end. So the first verse of the Gita is spoken by Dhritarashtra, but the last is spoken by Sanjay. Yatra Yogeshvara Krishna, Yatra Pato Danudara, Tata Sri Vijaya Bhuti, Dhruva Nityamati Mama. And he says, wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, morality. That is my opinion. So the opinion of Sanjaya is, who is the disciple of Vyas, who's been given this transcendental vision by the mercy of Vyas, that Dhritarashtra, your sons, they don't stand a chance. It's not possible. Right? And at the end of the battle of Kurukshetra, Sanjaya was there because he had Mystic City, right? And Satyaki, the head of the Pandava army, he said, saw him, said, he's one of the enemy, he's useless, kill him. And Vyasa immediately appeared there and went, do not kill him, he's my disciple. Guru saves a disciple. The Guru's there, disciple's there. Right. So Vyasa appears all throughout the Shastra, saving this situation, saving that situation. There was no king in Hastinapur, so he had to consummate the act with the king's queens to produce a king. And he said to his mother, well, I don't look very good. I've been in the Himalayas performing great austerities, matted locks, I'm disheveled. He said, at least let me clean myself. She said, there's no time. It must happen immediately. So he fathered Dhritarashtra, Pandu and Vidura. So in the Bhagavatam it says, Tata saptadaset jata satyavatyam parasarat chakre veda tarosaka disvapumsa apamedasa. Thereafter, in the 17th incarnation of Godhead, Sri Vyasadeva appeared in the womb of Satyavati through Parasara Muni, and he divided the one Veda into several branches and sub-branches, seeing that the people in general were less intelligent. Alpamedasa. This is similar to Kali Yuga, right? 12th canto, Bhagavatam says, Tatashkanodidam dhamma satyam socham samadaya kalena balina rajan nakshat yayo balanspiti. Sukadeva Goswami says to Maharaj Pariksit, my dear king, in Kali Yuga, religion is lost, memory, bodily strength, morality, everything, intelligence, mental prowess, all gone. And in the beginning of the first canto of the Bhagavatam, what does it say? Prayana payasya sabakalavas min yuge janaha samanda manda matayo manda bhagyahi upadita. It is said that in Kali Yuga, people are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, constantly disturbed. Constantly disturbed. So for those less intelligent, Vyas split the Vedas. So he was born from Satyavati and Parasara Muni. Satyavati was the daughter of the fisher king, and her body gave off an odour like a fish. So fish are not very, that fragrance is not very nice. And his father was Parasara Muni, who is the son of Vasishtha Muni. Therefore, Vyas is the grandson of Vasishtha Muni. So it's a very great line. Vyas, Parasara, Vasishtha Muni. Very great line, powerful line, strong line. So Satyavati, her service was to ferry people across the river. Well, one day, the great sage, the great rishi came. Gee, we've got an audience. Well, there's so many lockdowns, you don't know what to do, what not to do, where to go, where not to go. You know, can I breathe, can I not breathe? Can I stand? You know, I mean, you don't know what to do, right? So one day the great saint, the great sage, the great rishi, Parasara Muni came, and it was her duty to ferry him across the river. Halfway across, Parasara Muni realised this is a very auspicious time to conceive. A great personality will appear. So he explained this to Satyavati, and she was a bit shocked. She said, well, I'm not married, I'm still a virgin, and I don't really know you. You know, like, what am I going to do? And he explained to her, he said, do not worry, you will remain a virgin, but the child born to you will be very great personality, very great personality. So by his mystic power, he created a cloud over the boat. They performed the act. And after that, she remained a virgin, and the smell, the fishy smell of her body disappeared, and she smelled like fragrant flowers. And of course, she gave birth to a very great personality, Vyasadeva. So, you know, and it's said in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita that, you know, if you want to really make your motherhood successful, give birth to a sadhu. Guru Maharaj used to say that all the time, didn't he, Materna? He used to say it all the time, make your motherhood successful, have a sadhu as a child. So, Vyas, his guru is Narada Muni, and his Shiksha disciple is Madhavacharya. And also, he spoke the Bhagavatam to Sukadeva Goswami. So, Vyas, Madhavacharya met Vyas. From Vyas, he began his line at Udupi, but also Sukadeva Goswami spoke at the Bhagavatam at the Assembly of Maharaj Parikshit, and Sutta Goswami was there, and Sutta Goswami then heard from Sukadeva Goswami, went to Naimisharanya, and he spoke there and was questioned by Sanaka Rishi. And sometimes it's called the Sutta Sanaka Samvad. Right? Sutta Sanaka Samvad, that discussion. And he's questioning him, and he's speaking the Bhagavatam. So, it is said that the guru of Madhvacharya, or Shiksha Guru, is Vyasadeva, and the guru of Sukadeva Goswami is Vyas. It is said, right? That is stated. However, in the first canto, second chapter, third verse, in the commentary by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says, when Sukadeva Goswami spoke the Bhagavatam in the assembly of Maharaj Parikshit, he became the guru of everybody there, including Vyas and including Narada Muni. Because, he says, the Bhagavatam had never been spoken like that previously. Prabhuji, yeah, thanks. The audience is getting bigger. Well, as I said, with all the lockdowns, people can't come. So he became, because of his speaking, this is the words of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur when he's coming to the Bhagavatam, he became the guru of everyone there, including Vyas and Narada Muni. So if we backtrack a bit, In the Bhagavatam and in the Lagha Bhagavatamrita, there's a list of all the avatars. So the first avatar is Kumaras, right? 4 Kumaras. Second is Varahadev, the boar incarnation. Third is Narada Muni. Fourth is Naranarayan Rishi. Fifth is Kapila Dev. Sixth is Dattatreya, etc. Right? So Narada Muni appeared. He's the mental son of Brahma, born from the mind of Brahma, or the intelligence of Brahma. Right? Great personality. But when Narada Muni realised that Naranarayan Rishi had taken birth, he started to search for them. So Naranarayan Rishi, they are the sons of Murti and Maharaj Dharma. Maharaj Dharma, he married many of Daksha's wives. It said Daksha's daughters. Daksha had 50 daughters. 16 of them were very, very attractive, very beautiful, and Maharaj Dharma married 13 of them. One of them was called Murti. From Murti, they had twin sons, Naranarayan Rishi. Naranarayan Rishi then went up to Badrik Ashram to perform great austerities for the whole of planet Earth and the universe. And that's what sadhus do. Their chanting pushes back the Kali Yuga. When you're in the association of the real sadhu, or he's speaking Harikatha, it pushes back the Kali Yuga. Right? That prayana payasha sabakalavas menu gejana samanda mandamatayo mandabragyahu hiopadrita, the quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, and unlucky, and above all constantly disturbed, is pushed back. Right? By the speaking of sadhus, or their chanting, or their austerities. So they performed austerities for the whole of the world. And so then Narada Muni found them. And Narada Muni, he met them, and they then spoke the Puranas, taught the Puranas to Narada Muni. From them he learnt the Puranas, and then he met Vyas and explained to Vyas why he was despondent. And from that preaching of Narada Muni, Vyas wrote the Bhagavatam. Then he spoke to Sugata Goswami, who spoke to Sutta Goswami, who was questioned by Sanaka Rishi at Naimisharanya, etc. There's all these powerful personalities. We don't know who's around. We don't know who's great and who's not great. You know what I mean? You can't just look at someone and say, oh, he's great or he's not great. It's not possible. So, Vyasa wrote many literatures. He compiled the 4 Vedas. The original Vedas, the Yajna Veda, split it into 4, Rik, Sama, Yajna, Atharva Veda, and he entrusted it to 4 of his main disciples, Sumanta, Pala Rishi, Jaimini, and Vaishampayana Rishi. He wrote the Vedanta, wrote the Puranas, the Mahabharata, which includes the Gita, and the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the bona fide commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, which if there's time we'll get into that. So, the Vedas, there became 1,130 branches. From those 4 Vedas entrusted to the 4 disciples, Pala Rishi had the Rig Veda, Vaisampayana had the Yajna Veda, Jaimini had Sama Veda, and Sumantra had the Atharva Veda, and Ramahasha the Sutta, he had the histories and the Puranas. Right? But from those 4 disciples, they handed it to their disciples, and it became split again. We ended up with 1,130 branches. So in the Kama Purana, 52nd chapter 9, verses 19 to 20, it says, Ekavim sati vedena rig vedam kritavan pura, sakanam satena eva yajvedam atakarot, samavedam sahasrena sakanam prabhibedesa, atavanamato vedam bibeda navakena tu. Previously, the Rig Veda was divided into 21 sections, the Yajna Veda into 100 sections, the Sama Veda into 1,000 sections, and the Atharva Veda into 9 divisions, which leaves us with 1,130 branches. However, by the time Jiva Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami, began his Satsandarbhas, 1552, some say 1551, 1552, he said there were originally 1,130 branches of the Vedas, but now there's only 20 left. And he said, still too much to go through in one lifetime. Therefore, better the Bhagavatam. Right? And the Bhagavatam is the bona fide commentary, right, written by Vyasa on the Vedanta. And the Vedanta is all the codes of the Upanishads answered very nicely in the Vedanta. So, and we'll get onto that later too if there's time. So in the Korma and the Vishnu Puranas, it's described, and Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur describes this in his Chaitanya Bhagavata, there have been 28 Vyasadevas so far, right? The Vyasadeva in this, that has just appeared in this Dwapara Yuga, just gone, is empowered personality, partial incarnation of the Supreme Lord, Shakti Vaisavatar. Right? The previous 27 were powerful, pure Brahmins. Very powerful, very pure Brahmins. But this one is Shakti Vaisha, partial incarnate. Just like in the Bhagavatam, in the very closing verses of the 12th canto of the Bhagavatam, Sutta Goswami speaking, and he says, I've forgotten the verse, but that's really good. Yogendriya namastasmai sukaya brahma rupini. He says, I offer my Dandava pranams to his spiritual master, Sukadeva Goswami, who is the best of all mystic sages and partial incarnation, Supreme Lord. Again, another Shakti Vaisavatar. And throughout the Bhagavatam, Sutta Goswami is saying, my Guru, Sukadeva Goswami. And they picked Sutta Goswami at the beginning of the Bhagavatam because he had heard from many great personalities, including Vyasa and Sukadeva Goswami. So the great father had a great son. And that mother of Sukadeva Goswami, her motherhood was successful. She gave birth to a sadhu. And the mother of Vyasa, her motherhood was successful because she gave birth to a great sadhu, Vyasadeva. Dandavad Sadibol. So in each set of yugas, Divya Yuga, Maha Yugas, set of 4 yugas, Satya, Treta, Dwapara, Kali, in that Dwapara Yuga, Vyasa appears. In one Manvantara, which is the avatar of the Lord as the ruling Manu, right? Previous age was Swayambhuva Manu, he wrote the Manu Samhita. This age is Vaishvata Manu, and he's in his 28th millennium. In the 29th millennium, the Vyasa is called, his name is Ashvatthama. There are 71 sets of 4 yugas or Divya yugas or Maha yugas in a Manvantara, age of Manu. And there are 71 Vyasadevas, one in each Dwapara Yuga. So this is all sort of history. So from Vyasa, we get the Vedas, we get Vedanta, we get the Vyasasan, and we got Vyasa Puja, isn't it? Right. The holy Vedas, right? Rig, Sama, Yajur, Tava Vedas. And then we get the Vyasasan, which is the holy seat of Vyasa, the seat of the Acharya. And Gurudev used to say, Srila Gauravinda Swami used to say, conditioned soul cannot sit on this Vyasasan. If you're a conditioned soul, sit on a cushion, sit on a mat, whatever. Do not sit on the Vyasasan. So what is the qualification to be a Pandit? Sanskrit scholar and know the 6 Sandarbhas of Jiva Goswami. Tattva Sandarbha, Bhagavat Sandarbha, Paramatma Sandarbha, Krishna Sandarbha, Bhakti Sandarbha, Priti Sandarbha. Not just the titles, know what's in them and how to use them. That's Pandit. Right? Acharya means he knows that as well, but to know, he knows the 6 philosophies by the 6 philosophers and can defeat the first 5, which are atheistic or impersonalist, with the 6th. So it's called the Saddarshana. If you don't know this, don't sit on the Vyasasan. The Vyasasan is the holy seat of Vyasa. So that means if you're sitting on that Vyasasan, means you are the representative Vyasa. So the six philosophies of the Saddarshanas, Kamami monks, Sankhya, Nyaya, Vaisheshika Yoga by Patanjali, and the Vedanta Sutra. The Vedanta Sutra is the one theistic darshana of the Saddarshana, right? The Vedanta Sutra. With that Vedanta Sutra, you have to be able to defeat the other five philosophies. Otherwise, do not sit on the Vyasan and do not present yourself as the representative of Vyasadeva. So that's what it means to sit on the Vyasasan. And if you want to have your feet bathed, and then Brahma Tatram Janati, Brahma Sutrana Gavita. If you bathe the feet of someone who is not fit, Gurudev said, Srila Guru-Purnima Swami said, what is that? Fit means they must know chit, achit, tatashta. If they are not fully understanding of this, do not bathe their feet. Because in your next life, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his commentary on the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavata, he says, you will end up with 4 legs, a tail and pointed ears, Baba. So the holy seat of Vyas. Number 2, Vyas Puja. So I've got 2 paragraphs here from our Gurudev Srila Gopalabhatta Swami. I'm going to read them first, then we'll talk about it, yeah? So Gurudev always used to say that Puja of all Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas, Vyas Puja. And this is a lecture he gave at 10th of March 1995 in Bhubaneswar. We were there, right? We were all there. We were there for that lecture. He says, Gurudev starts, it is stated here that Vyas Puja means Guru Puja through the agency of Vyasadeva. Again, Vyasadeva. In fact, even today in India, the Mayavadis worship Vyas. That's how great he is. They wear tilak like this, he wears tilak like that. They still glorify him today. That's how great Vyas is. Everybody glorifies Vyas. Since Vyasadeva is the original guru, original spiritual master of all who follow the Vedic principles, worship of the spiritual master through the agency of Vyasadeva is called Vyas Puja. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada introduced the ceremony of Vyas Puja in our line on his 50th birthday. From that day, every day, Haribol Madhiji, the audience is getting bigger. From that day, every year it has been observed. On his 52nd birth anniversary, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Maharaj gave a lecture on Srimad Bhagavatam describing the meaning of Vyas Puja. He said, Vyas Puja means the puja of all Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas. And Gurudev used to say, it doesn't just mean my Gurudev or your Gurudev. It doesn't mean Nityananda or Vyas or Sukadeva Goswami or Lord Chaitanya. It means the worship of all acharyas, which means if we worship one acharya on their appearance day, we are worshipping the whole sampradaya. From this statement, we can understand the purport of Vyas Puja. It is not only the puja of Vyasadeva or of Krishna or of Guru Sundara or of Guru. That is not real Vyas Puja. Vyas Puja means the puja of all pure Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas. That is real Vyas Puja. Vyas Puja means the worship of all these Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas. And I say, this is my point, past, present or future. We follow the Sampradaya Pranali of the Gaudiyas, right? It doesn't stop here or stop there, or no, it goes, it keeps going. The flow or the stream of this Sampradaya. So everything we're getting from Vyas. And Vyas has many qualifications and they are listed in the Gita, in the Bhagavatam, etc., etc., etc. But there's some pretty interesting ones. Vyasadeva has the ability to see the future. He could see how this Kali Yuga is very degraded. You can see right now, I'm really getting the idea now, how degraded Kali Yuga is from what's happening. The last year and a half, maybe, it's really gone crazy. The oncoming Kali Yuga with its attendant degradation. His super powerful Supernatural knowledge of past, present and future. Trikaligya. That's real guru. He knows your past, your present and future. And Vyas was able to appear and disappear at will. Oh, I don't believe that. Really? But you want me to believe someone died on the cross and then was resurrected? They could walk on water and turn water into wine, the alcoholic stream, right? Instead of water, we get wine. You want me to believe that? Huh? Anyway, won't get into that. But yeah, he had the ability to appear and disappear at will. And then he gave the Vedanta Sutra. Right? Vedanta Sutra. Now the Vedanta, I haven't got that here. Anyway, the Vedanta Sutra, as I said, is the codes, or the in code form, the explanation of all the Upanishads. And there's 4 chapters to the Vedanta, right? First 2 chapters equal Sambandha, means relationship, right? 3rd chapter equals Abhidheya, means how to act in that relationship, right? And the 4th chapter is Prayojana, Tattva, Prema. What is the goal? This is the Vedanta. So technically, the Mayavadis cannot speak on the Vedanta Sutra because they do not understand Sambandha, Abhidheya, Prayojana. It's not possible. And all the Sampradaya-acharyas wrote commentaries. Ramanujacharya wrote Sri Bhashya, Madhvacharya wrote Purna Pragya Bhashya, Vishnu Swami wrote the Savagya Bhashya, and the Nimbatitya wrote the Parijat Bhashya. So they all wrote commentaries on it. And then in the Gaudiya line, Srila Baladev Vidyabhasan wrote the Govinda Bhashya. But what is the original commentary on the Vedanta written by Vyas? Is the Bhagavatam. So why is the Bhagavatam so important? Mahaprabhu said, Atayava Bhagavata Etina Koi Sambandha Vidya Prayojanamai. In the beginning, middle, and end, all throughout, the Bhagavatam is Sambandha, Abhidheya, and Prayojana. And that is the Siddhanta of the Vaishnavas, and that is the Siddhanta of the Gaudiyas. And unless we understand Sambandha, Abhidheya, Prayojana, we will not move forward on the path of spiritual life. So, I'm just going to end off with one point and then you're on, yeah? Keep going. Keep going. 5 minutes. So, when Jiva Goswami began the Sandarbhas, he said 1,130 branches of the Vedas. It has become 20 branches, but still it's more than one can encompass in this lifetime. So he said, better, he said, better to study the Bhagavatam. Right? So why? Why the Bhagavatam? And he gives 5 points, right? This is in the toughest, in the beginning, in the very beginning of his writing, he gives 5 points. Why the Bhagavatam is the best. Number 1, it fully explains Vedanta. Because of that Sambandha, Abhidheya, Prayojana understanding, right? Number 2, fully explains the Gayatri Mantra. Now, in the first chapter of the Bhagavatam, in the first sloka, that Satyam Paramadimahi denotes Gayatri. And the first line of the Gayatri, Om, denotes as the seed, right? And then Bhu Bhuvaha Swa is the Mahavritis, or the 7 higher planetary systems are Bhu Bhuvaha Swa, Mahajana Tapa Satya Lokas, right? And and then the next lines of that first part of the Gayatri Mantra, they equal, in the words of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada in his commentary, they equal Sambandha, Abhidheya, Prayojana. So it fully explains the Gayatri Mantra. It's fully accessible in 12 cantos, 335 chapters, 18,000 verses. It's aparushaya, means superhuman, and it's fully in line with our Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta. So the Bhagavatam becomes the best book in Kali Yuga for us. And someone may say, well, there's 18 Puranas, study them all. Okay, study them all, great. I think that's great. But if you can't study them all, Yaha Bhagavata Pada Vaishnava Stane, right? Sit at the feet of a self-realised Vaishnava and hear Bhagavatam from him. That's all you need to do. But if you have that big brain and you can study the 18, fantastic. But all you need to do is hear the Bhagavatam. And Jiva Goswami gives the 5 reasons in his Tattva Sandarbha why the Bhagavatam is the best. And in the words of many acharyas, these Sat Sandarbhas of Jiva Goswami, they are the most lucid, prolific, effulgent understanding of our Gaudiya Siddhanta. And 2 main points of the Sat Sandarbhas, what are they? Achincha Veda Veda Tattva Siddhanta of Mahaprabhu and Srimad Bhagavatam is the best of scriptures. And Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan, supreme absolute reality. And the goal is Priti, Prema, love. So it all revolves around this Sambandha Vidaya Prayojana, and that's in the Bhagavatam, which Vyas wrote. It's in the Vedanta Sutra, which he wrote. In the words of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, actually, he said, if you want to stay in the material world, read the Mahabharata, and if you want to leave the material world, read the Bhagavatam. I'm just saying, it's not my words. But the Mahabharata is the pastimes of not only the Supreme Lord, but mainly the Pandavas in the Mahabharata war, and how envy transforms a whole family. And that's all it was. That war was just envy. Not on the part of the Pandavas, on the part of Duryodhana. Right? And as I said in the beginning, when Duryodhana was born, Vyas came and said to Dhritarashtra, get rid of this boy, get rid of this child. He will be the destruction of your whole dynasty. And when Dronacharya, he called Duryodhana and he called Yudhisthira. And he said to Yudhisthira, go out and find someone who is worse than you. And he said to Duryodhana, go and find someone who's better than you. So they both came back, and Duryodhana, he came back and said, I could not find anyone better than me. and Dronacharya said, okay, go take rest. And then Yudhisthira came and he said, well, I saw a man filling buckets of water, and it was a codicy. So I thought he was drinking water on a codicy, so I was going to chastise him. But then I realised he was just getting water for himself. So therefore I can say, I have not found anyone worse than me. I'm the worst. I'm lowest. And Chanakya Pandit says that one fragrant flower, right, can make the whole forest fragrant. But one dead tree, if it gets hit by lightning, can catch on fire and be the destruction of the whole forest. Swamiji, you're going to speak now?
Yeah, 1 minute. Keep going 1 minute. What was he getting water for? Did you say again?
Sorry?
It was getting buckets of water for what? On a codicy. He was drawing buckets.
Yeah, he was filling buckets of water on a codicy. He was thinking the man was going to drink. Because real codicy means no eating, no sleeping, no drinking, staying awake all night doing bhajan chanting. This is Haribhakti Vilas. This is what real. But we've got it easy, don't it? You know, some people don't eat grains, don't eat beans, but others, they stay away from certain vegetables and all that, you know. So the more austerity, the better, because codicy is a mother of devotion. But he said he was getting water for his animals, so I could see there's no one worse than me. I'm the worst. I'm lowly. And this is the mood. And our Gurudev, he said, actually in the words of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he said, if you get a list of all the names in the universe, mine should be at the bottom. And Gurudev always used to say, if there's a list, make mine at the bottom. make mine at the bottom. Make mine at the bottom. And I have to say this, that there's a 64-hour Maha glorification of many sadhus, acharyas, right? Gaudiya. And they've listed our Gurudev amongst it. And I was pretty happy with that. Because you don't get that in many other places, but they included Gurudev. Very good. Okay, I'm going to stop now. Thank you very much. Dandavats. All glories to the great Srila Vyasadeva. It's also the disappearance of Srila Sanatana Goswami. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna Vanshakapatrivishcha, Kripsa Divya Vichar, Patitanam Pavenabhyo Vaishnava.